In 2014, Carol Dweck, an American psychologist, discussed growth mindset, a belief that our skills and our intelligence are not set in stone, that they are flexible, and we can improve them through constant practice and targeted effort. Her video made me curious about two things. The first one is, wouldn't it be nice if physics students look forward to learning more challenging physics concepts? And second, in what ways might we create a learning environment that fosters learning from mistakes so that we develop a growth mindset? Now, you might ask, why physics? Well, I am a physics educator, and I am absurdly curious to learn how my students think. And second, physics, just like any other field of study, evolves from simple concepts to complex ones. And in that process of transitioning from simple concepts to complex ones, mistakes are bound to happen. Mistakes are a part of learning. In physics, worded problems are a staple, and this is also true to any math-related course. To solve a worded problem, we begin with reading the worded problem with intent. And then, using our current knowledge and understanding of the worded problem, we try to solve it to the best of our abilities. If everything falls in the right place, we arrive at the correct answer. However, if there is an incorrect assumption or a misplaced negative sign or an incorrect calculator setting, these will lead us to an incorrect answer. This is where a turning point exists. How do physics students treat their mistakes? Well, first, there's this thank you next attitude, where a student simply brushes off her mistake and moves on as if nothing happened. Then there is another attitude wherein a student admits she made a mistake, she reflects as to why she got that mistake, and she processes the mistake, and then she applies what she learned about those mistakes to succeeding worded problems. In any worded problem that requires a numerical answer, we often use the GRESA process to solve it, or to solve them. In my study on mistakes with my physics students, I found out that another S is necessary, and that S is sketch. So in this process, anywhere in the GRESA process, mistakes can creep in. And there are three common mistakes related to the errors that you make. The first one is a misreading mistake, wherein the given and the required identified by the student is incorrect. Misrepresenting, wherein the equations and solutions are incorrect. And miscalculating, where the solution and answer are incorrect. Misreading happens when what was interpreted is different from what was provided in the problem. So for example, in this worded problem on the left, a student might misinterpret electric force as an electric field, which is a totally different concept. Or a student might miss a 0 and write 0.07 instead of 0.007. When a student commits misreading, she might find herself saying, I thought the worded problem meant or asked for something different. For misrepresenting, this mistake happens when a student creates incorrect visual representations or sketches of the worded problem. In this example, for an object thrown at an angle, the initial velocity of the object should also be drawn at an angle and not vertically upward. Misrepresentations can also happen using mathematical equations. So in this case, the equation for the height of an object thrown upward should be squared, the initial velocity. And this is easy to miss considering that the sign is also squared. And lastly, miscalculating. This mistake happens when the student inputs incorrect numerical values or performs incorrect mathematical operations on her calculator. Students who commit miscalculating will find themselves saying, I substituted an incorrect value. I missed the decimal point. I forgot to get the square root. I forgot the negative sign. Or, my calculator was in degrees mode, not radians mode. So, what drives these mistakes to be made? Why do we commit these mistakes? I can give you one specific reason, and that is called functional fixedness. What happens is, when we get a correct answer, we tend to carry over that success to another worded problem, even though that worded problem actually requires something different, okay? And that will lead you to an incorrect answer. So, there's so much learning here in this area. There's more opportunity to learn from mistakes because we get to correct our understanding of misconceptions. Learning from misconceptions and correcting them is a powerful way to learn because we elevate our thinking skills from novice ones to expert ones. So what can we do then? How can we avoid these mistakes? Well, for misreading, you can start by rephrasing and annotating the worded problem. You can also use simpler words if the worded problem is too wordy. You can also make questions about the question and assess if they actually make sense. And lastly, when you read the worded problem, make sure to relish each word. Make sure that you know the meaning of each word. For misrepresenting, you can comment on each equation that you will use so that you know with intent that you are using the equation that is in alignment with its function. You can also label each part of the sketch. But if a sketch is already provided by the worded problem, you can simplify the sketch by using simpler shapes, lines, dots, and even removing some elements of the visual representation. Lastly, for miscalculating, you can actually rehearse the buttons that you want to press in your mind, and by rehearsing them in your mind, you are more or less prone to commit miscalculating mistakes. When you turn on your calculator, please do not start working on the worded problem immediately. Okay? Check the letters that appear on the screen because these letters are related to the function of the calculator at that moment. And then afterwards, you start working on the worded problem. And lastly, your brain might be very busy and you might have cognitive overload when you are already considering many different conditions at the same time. So do yourself a favor, write whatever you can write. I'm going to give you 8 more general strategies regardless of the mistake. First, before answering a worded problem, I'd like you to check your emotions. Are you overconfident? If you are overconfident, that might be stemming from your previous successes. And that's dangerous because you might carry over what you know to a different worded problem that requires a different solution. So you are bound to commit a mistake. Or are you nervous? If you are nervous, you might start doubting yourself and asking questions on things that you already know, and in fact, these are correct. So what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to tell you that if there is a bad dose of positive emotions, then there's also a good dose of negative emotions. Second, actively look for new worded problems to solve. Don't be satisfied by what was provided by your teacher in the classroom. If you keep on quizzing yourself on worded problems that have been solved already, they're not problems anymore. You're not growing. You are confining yourself in your comfort zone. Number 3, actively ask for the answers of your classmates, especially when they made a mistake. Okay. Ask with curiosity, tact, and respect, how did you arrive at this answer? Number 4, inasmuch as you want to learn from the mistakes of your classmates, please be generous as well to share your mistakes, especially to your classmates who might help you analyze why you committed that mistake. Number 5, spend time on processing these mistakes. Make it a habit to process your mistakes. Have a routine where you and your friends will trace each other's mistakes, verbalizing, I committed misrepresentations, or I made a miscalculation error. Number 6, be systematic when you process your mistakes. You can use prompts such that they will help you engage in deeper reflections as to what went wrong. Number 7, so all the strategies that I shared with you may not work for you. So I challenge you to design your own solutions related to your mistakes. You can create your own flowcharts, mnemonics, reflection prompts, and even learning journals. And lastly, don't be afraid to just show up. You won't know how much learning you're missing if you avoid learning from mistakes. So, for example, if your teacher calls you and you're not sure about your answer, don't be shy to recite. You can begin your answer with, I am not sure, but I think this is the answer. Or, if you're not yet done with the solution, you can say, I am not yet done with my solution, but I figured we're going to use this equation or this number. In that way, you get immediate feedback from your teacher and your classmates. I have a homework for you tonight. When you get home, I want you to reflect. Which of these mistakes do you often commit? And which of the strategies can you use? Everyone, when you are at this turning point of receiving mistakes or in the process of learning new skills, I hope that we become this person who reflects and digs deeper on the multiverse of mistakes from one incorrect answer. Thank you very much.